Okay, everybody. Good night to you. Good morning. Good afternoon. Whenever you decide to tune in after this stream, thank you for tuning in. I am Noah. To the this side of me is Daivon, and we have a different format for you guys this time around. All right. First of all, I learned my lesson. I'm not going to be drinking anymore. That was terrible for my body too. On top of that, like,
Mhm.
first of all, there ended up being a little bit more questions than what I thought, and last week especially, I did not eat enough in order to absorb all the alcohol in there. So yeah, my it took a couple days in order for me to physically recover from that, which was not good. Um, so I'm not gonna do that anymore. And I mentioned this and I mentioned this a few days ago. I'm no longer the fantasy guy. We're no longer talking about fantasy. All right, unless y'all miss it, unless y'all ask for it again, that's when I can really keep that up. But I think for right now, that's no longer going to be our focal point. So if you're expecting that, I'm sorry, but we had to adapt in order to improve. So, but before we start off with our topics, I'm going to start up with our roll call over here. We got Sean Wiley that was tuning in earlier. We got Cartez Network. Said, bro, thanks for talking me off the cliff this weekend. I didn't really look, man. Hopefully he's still here with us. JC Magic 2, chucking up the deuces. Uh, is that John Tay Rosier? How'd it do for you? Big Ant, how's it going? Ty Bonds with our late night crew. AFN,
What up?
what's up, fellas? Hope all is well for both of you, Falcons family. Hey, we
What's
really
up, man?
appreciate that. So, hey, I'm gonna keep that up there for you. Um, so, what is our new format? Well, our first thing that we got to get off our chest is our review and our recap for the Falcons and Jets game. I know it's still kind of late, but it's a good thing that we don't have another game to worry about until like the next Wednesday to really talk about the Dolphins. So we're going to save that conversation for then. For the zero people that were waiting for my article to be released, I'm sorry. My app to really write it was so terrible to the fact that it would not save any of my progress. I couldn't write any extra paragraphs if I wanted to back out of my phone. It the next time I go onto it, it was nothing. It was gone. It took me 14 hours to upload one picture.
Bro.
That was ridiculous. I took my day off yesterday, and that was I wanted to have that finished then, right? But the fact that I couldn't get it done, it just goes to show you how terrible we were, the conditions that I was working with. Like, it didn't save anything, it didn't upload anything, so it didn't matter what I wrote.
Yeah.
It was terrible, but we're gonna get through it. Um, and so once we get done with our conversation about the Jets, we have some questions that we've asked ourselves and we thought about. We've given it some time, and these are some really juicy questions for y'all. So we want some audience participation for that.
Definitely.
We only have three questions, but believe me, they are loaded. All right, there's so many different ways to go about this, and any participation in the chat is welcomed. So I've been doing a lot of talking. I'm going to leave it up to Davon to get us up to speed with what happened in the first half of the Jets game.
All right. So when it first started, you realized that the Falcons over the past, like say, last couple weeks, the Washington football team, the offense gets rolling really quickly, and we noticed that they can run the ball efficiently, couple on the first couple drives, and they can get into the red zone, and they can either score a field goal or a touchdown. But you notice that this game, Falcons fans start off and like, oh, yeah, we're feeling good. We could score easily, move the ball at will against the Jets, and pretty much the first half was looking amazing. You had our first interception. You had Alameda CS dropping the ball, and you noticed that Pitts was starting to get going, and of course that touchdown to Pitts, I don't know how happy you were, but I was yelling like we've been waiting for that for a while now, and now it's pretty much the most exciting thing. That
That
game.
was something that I expected. When
Really?
we were asked about like the fantasy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I kept Kyle Pitts on my lineup, even though I had Dawson Knox, because I didn't want to miss out on Kyle Pitts' first touchdown, which I thought was going to happen today, and it did.
Mm-hmm. He exploded
So
that game.
in my other draft, just to really start and end this conversation quickly, or this thought, in my other league, I thought I accidentally started Mark Andrews. Little did I know that I kept him on the bench, and he did fantastic
I ain't seen nothing like
against
that
Indy.
before. That was crazy,
Exactly. I had like almost 200 fantasy points, which doesn't really happen to me because I started him and Austin Eckler in the same Sunday.
bro. I
But
say
enough
another
about
thing,
me.
man. That game, I was down 40, and just him brought me all the way back. That was amazing. No.
Yeah. So I am still 3-2 and 5-0 in my respective two leagues that I can care about.
Mhm.
But hey, that's just me. Um, but I'm gonna yeah, you're over here. So I'm gonna get back to your conversation.
But
Well,
yeah, like I don't know, just that game, you kind of felt good about, going into halftime. Was it 20 to it was 20 because we drove down the field right before half to kick that field goal.
yeah, at halftime it
And
was 20-3.
yeah, and you felt really good about that because, Matt Ryan, it kind of brought back memories of Kyle Shanahan, when he didn't have, and just one receiver he was locked on. He threw to everybody and he was spreading the ball around. What did give me, a little was Hayden Hurst ball security, trying to hurdle everybody and kind of holds it out here and gets plucked out a lot. And, really the Falcons could have won that game, I think, by like 20, 30 points. It's really a lot closer than it should have been because of the turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, this was a game where the scoreboard once again it didn't tell the full story. Everyone's trying to say like, "Oh, hey, well, man, that you almost lost to the Jets. How embarrassing would that have been?" Right? The game never really felt that close.
No,
You
it
know,
really didn't.
like when we finally put the game away with that extra touchdown to Mike Davis,
Hmm.
like I knew right then and there that the Jets had no chance to come back and win,
Yeah.
given our
Like,
history. You
yeah.
know, it's like
Hmm.
from the previous like three quarters, that told me that it didn't matter about what was going to happen after that because we've seen with the body of work that we showed against Zach Wilson, who was a mobile quarterback that was like really good at improvising,
Hmm.
that we kept up with him. We kept him in the pocket. And once that happened, he really couldn't do much against the defense.
Not at all.
And that just goes to show that we have been really battle tested, and thanks to our schedule
Yeah.
from the offensive line. I know that Jamal Grant over here has been asking Jalen Mayfield finally getting better. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And I think that the whole offensive line has been getting better too. The fact
Zero
that
sacks allowed though.
40 something passing attempts against the Jets and not a single sack. I think that
Right.
speaks volumes for what we've been doing on the offensive side of the ball.
Mhm.
And almost the same story against Washington, another great defensive front that we were nervous about, but because of our schedule, like it was great defensive line after great defensive line, like
Mhm.
it just kept that stretch going.
Yep.
So once iron sharpens iron, we are now confident in our own iron. you
Mhm.
know, so yeah, like once it got to that point, you know, they couldn't drive the field down against us, and that was something that we really wanted to see. We saw a couple of like 3 and outs and whatnot. Like we really saw the Jets punter, which hey, I forgot
Oh
Thomas
yeah.
Morstead was in the league,
Oh
but
yeah.
hey, I got to hear a lot from him.
Yep. The defense was clicking.
um, got Devin over here. It says the 2 turnover gave the momentum. That's why it was close. Yeah, and we're gonna get into it a little bit later on. And so that kind of bleeds into some of the questions that we're going to keep for later.
Mhm.
So, was any other thoughts that you had about the game?
Yeah, it's okay. I gotta ask you, how did you feel going in when they made it a 3-point game? Did you have confidence that Arthur Smith would learn from his mistakes last week?
Oh yeah,
You did? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because all we've seen so far is our hope increase.
Yeah.
Like all we've seen is us get better. And I know that the scoreboard isn't like a complete reflection of that,
Yeah.
but if we just take a look at a drive-by-drive basis, we're not like down in the bottom of the barrel with the rest of the league. We're
Mm-hmm.
not at the top yet, but we are on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that we're looking for right now is like if we want this team to improve. Goodness gracious, that's a big comment by Jamal Grant. If we want this team to improve, we need to see the small, intricate details be worked on and perfected.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that little by little.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me hope right there.
Man,
And the fact that Arthur Smith, which I thought was like the biggest linchpin to what has been going on in the previous couple weeks with his conservative play calling,
yeah.
he's finally realized like, hey, like I have Matt Ryan on my team. Like, so I can just let him sling it over to Pitts, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
They've been
Like
on a
that.
tear, and why stop that?
Man, Matt Ryan, like I just after last game, I was like, you saw what happened against the Giants. Like Matt Ryan can bring this team. He's called Matty Ice for a reason. Let him get down the field and secure the game, secure the win. Methodically or like they did, which kind of surprised me was a deep play call. I thought he would like try to run, maybe a run, throw, short intermediate pass, but that deep ball to Pitts was about as gutsy as you can get.
Yeah, I mean that was a tone setter. That's what gave
Mm-hmm.
us the momentum right back. It's like, oh hey,
Right.
they scored. We need to answer right away
Mm-hmm.
because we know in this building, in this organization, that lead that we have is not enough.
Yeah.
It should never be enough.
Yeah.
All right, and that's what we've been like as a team. That's what they've been complacent with. Is like, okay, then we have the lead. All right, now let's not lose it.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of being in that mentality, they need like, okay, hey, the only thing that's going to stop us is seeing the 3 zeros on the clock.
Yeah.
If they can't, why should I? Why should I do their job for them?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're starting to see. Like
Yeah.
it's their job to stop us. We should not be stopping ourselves.
Ourselves, yeah.
And I don't see us doing that right now.
Ah, like
So
you saw it. And it's just you don't see that same energy from the team when they get a lead and we're gonna blow it. Like we're just gonna do it. I think Arthur Smith is setting a different trend with that.
yeah, I mean, you want to talk about changing the culture? That's how you do it.
Yeah. Learn from your mistakes, and he took accountability. That's what surprised me from hearing him say, I learned to get better. I can't do this. I don't think Dan Quinn would do that. He just we got to execute better and all that type of stuff. You know.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I should probably like torture myself to do is go back to the last year's press conferences, back when we were like 0-5 and stuff, and see what kind of questions that Dan Quinn was dealt with and see how he answered them. Like, what was his presence in the locker room at that point? Like, was
Yeah.
it still felt?
Yeah, like
The Lady J's over
team.
here can't wait till we see Frank Darby more. Oh, absolutely. Devin says the special teams and turnovers is causing us the game. If we can clean it up, we can compete for the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Big Ants going with the Lades comment too about waiting to see Pitts.
Man. Did you okay? So when Alameda Zaccheaus continued to drop passes, and we've seen that through the last 3 weeks, just consistently dropping them. Were you expecting to see Frank Darby, or were you expecting hit Arthur Smith to give him another chance to prove himself and to continue to compete?
So one of the things that we've seen so far is that Arthur Smith is not the type of coach to jerk the steering wheel from the player.
Yeah.
We've seen that with our punter Cam Neasy. We've seen that with Jalen Mayfield. We've seen that with a couple of other guys too. So when these guys aren't performing up to where they want to be or where they should be, Arthur Smith's not going to be like, all right, well, that's it. You're not enough. And then don't give them an extra chance to prove themselves again.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen. It's like, and if Arthur Smith's on the same page, Matt Ryan's going to be on the same page with them, and he's going to give them, he's going to trust him. And he's going to make sure that they recover from that mental mistake.
Yeah.
If you don't give them a chance, then guess what? You're going to lose respect.
Yeah.
So you can't afford that when you're trying to rebuild it or when you're trying to like reset the team in your image.
Yep.
because at the time being, these guys are on your roster. You chose this team. This team did not choose you.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you got to fight with what you have in your hand and do the best that you can with it, and make sure that those guys are still fighting for you. If
Yeah.
you lose their trust by jerking them out of the game before they're ready, that's not sending a good message to your players.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And he made a
that's not.
critical. It was one-handed catch for this third. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that
Where was
behind the
it?
hand at the
Yeah,
start of the fourth
and that was a
quarter.
critical catch. I was like, man.
So
And I,
once these players know that they have another chance to prove themselves,
mm,
that sets like a mental encouragement there.
yeah.
It lets them know that, okay, if I need to make a play here in order to stay on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I really like to see from that. And
Yeah.
these guys are practicing what they're preaching, which is such a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah. Like you can finally see a coach that he's not a what you would call a player's coach, kind of like DQ was, where he doesn't understand that the guys that you have in there, after a certain amount of time, it just isn't gonna work. Like I remember it was when we were really injured. He saw the injuries and he's like, I like the guys that we have in here. And those guys weren't on the same level as the guys that were injured. And you could have brought, a couple people in, but he just continued to rely on people here and continued to lose. So I kind of like and you saw with Nizelak, his punting got really good when he got another chance and saw
Yeah.
his kids, dropping passes, and he made that critical third down catch and that one-handed catch. So I kind of like what I see there.
And the way over here is like Steven Means and some of these other players, they still have to prove themselves.
Yeah.
But this is what we're here for,
Yeah.
Like other people, they're not going to really talk about these other lesser known players that
Yeah.
aren't performing and really hold them accountable like us over here at AFN.
Mm-hmm.
We are making sure that Stephen Means is being talked about. We're making sure that Tyler Davison is being talked about. We're making sure that Fabian Moreau is being talked about.
Yeah.
We're making sure that guys like Matt Hennessy and Clifford Franklin, that they're all being talked about. Because sure, we joke about them, but at the end of the day, they're still on our team, and we want them to improve.
Mm-hmm.
As long as that's the case, hey, I want to see you at your best. And if 4 pressures in 5 games is your best, I'm sorry, but at that point, that's going to be your job to lose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I said when I said Clifford Franklin. But, yeah, when it's about accountability, practicing what we're preaching, and all that good stuff, like we see the belief in the team, and we see that they're finally like fully buying in, and they're accepting what has been given to them, what has been told to them, and we're seeing the fruitage. It's paying really nice dividends for us, and like when we take a step back and look at the rest of the league, like there are some teams with good records that are on the decline. All right. Let's look at Denver. Let's look at the Raiders, where we might talk about them later. Let's talk about the Panthers. There are teams that we thought that were going to be good right away, but turns out to be inconsistent at best. We take a look at the Aints. We take a look at the Colts. We take a look at the Dolphins. There's plenty of examples so far. It's like, and then there's teams that are kind of like sputtering. They don't know what they are yet. I take a look at the Bears. I take a look at the Vikings. I take a look at the Chiefs, who still, by the way, has the same record as us.
Yeah.
But guess who's got the better defense? Us this time around.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. It's like once we take a step back, we ain't doing as bad as we think.
Oh.
All right. I'm tired of all the people that are saying like, oh my goodness, why are you sending the 2 worst teams to London in order to play? No, if you want to send the 2 worst teams, you send the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
And can I just say for the London crowd, look, you have my respect. 60,000 plus of you showing up to that game when everyone else was talking about, well, I don't want to wake up early to see this kind of game. These two teams are 1-3. There's no reason to pay attention to this game. They're just two bad teams. First of all, that wasn't the worst game of the week. You
Oh
know,
no.
I look at like the 49ers and Cardinals game. Like that one
That was
was
kind of more.
that was tough to watch.
Yeah.
I don't care if you were a fan of either team either.
Yeah.
You know, like the Cardinals weren't impressed with their performance. I mean, they were sure about the defense, but their offense was sputtering.
Yeah.
Wasn't necessarily a result of Kyler Murray, but I mean, when we go back to the 49ers side, like, geez, what is going on? Like, so we have hope, you know, and that's all we can ask for, and that's all we've been receiving on a week by week basis from the team.
Yeah. Good progress.
You know, and Devin making a good point. Who did the Bucks beat other than the Cowboys? That's good. Well, they beat us before we really came out the starting gate.
Yeah.
They just smacked the Dolphins around, which makes us even more confident about our matchup with them after this. I'm like, okay. After that Bills performance, I was like, okay, that's a little bit concerning. You should have at least scored points there. And then this almost kind of happened again. Once it was close, mind you, like the start of the fourth quarter for that Tampa and Dolphins game, it was 24-17.
Yeah.
That was the start of the fourth quarter. And then it just went, they imploded from there.
Mm-hmm.
So we ain't doing as bad as you think, guys.
Yeah, I just wish the fans, like, not of course our fans, but there's a group that just doesn't believe in the team no matter what. You could see tremendous progress, or even just look like a normal fan. You see progress from this team from the Eagles game to now. You know, you see the offense can move at will, you know, if everything's going on. But, you know, that the fan base is like, we suck. We're not making the playoffs. Don't even talk about it. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, like these are the people that I am 100% confident that they have not even like watched the games, and they're just only getting the information from the meme pages.
Yeah.
You know, Mafi says we gotta shore up things on special teams this bye week and help in coaching this D line and secondary. We have to find ways to win, not lose. I mean, we're still finding that. You know, like our schedule, like the schedule doesn't scare me right now.
No.
You know, because the teams that we have ahead of us, they're like I said, they're all in the decline.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you agree with me, but a lot of people were really high on the Panthers, and I looked at the schedule, saw who they beat, no offense that really scares you, you know, and to see how they imploded, you know, against the Eagles. I think they're up 15-3. And that offense, I mean, the Panthers don't really scare me like that, you know, not the Falcons at least. You know, especially your division rival. We know how to play the Panthers. I think we've swept them, what was it, 2 years in a row? We got the number for sure.
The only game that kind of gives me concern is like the Dallas game in Week 10, and that's only because it's at Dallas.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at Dak Prescott's numbers in Dallas, he has almost been like Aaron Rodgers level unbeatable over there.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost getting to the point where if you head over to Dallas, you might as well just chalk it up as a loss.
Yeah.
But that's what I want to see from our side too. You know, I want our stadium to be filled with people that are ready to see us win. You know, Marcus Bell says, I'm ready to see Hawkins and Grant as our starting safeties. Yeah, they're really getting there. Hawkins improved like tremendously well. That was his first career start.
Bro, an interception. Like, he was in pass coverage as well. It's really good. Like, you didn't see their wide receivers getting behind them.
Yeah, I mean, even on the deep passes that we were letting up later in the game, we still had people up in front to make the tackle.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a blown coverage. That was just a hole in the zone defense, which we had to expand because, like, I'm thinking of like the 1st and 20 play, you know, where like we shouldn't be giving that up.
No.
You know, I also saw a couple of people that were like, oh man, it's just like the refs versus the Jets. And I'm like, first of all, did you really think the Jets were going to win?
Yeah.
And second of all, did you really think that those penalties in particular were
Monopolies.
the only reason as to why they lost the game. Like,
Yeah,
get out of here
people.
for like
Yeah,
they like. There were some people that were like, man, ever since that first rough in the passer call, I already knew what type of game this was gonna be. Like the score was
bro.
0-0.
Bro.
Like
Even then, like you can't take out a QB's knees, man. That's see what happens. Like,
you can't take on a quarterback's knees or their ankles or anything below their waist. All right, that's
mhm,
been taught. And what's also been taught is that you can't drive your body onto the quarterback when they're falling to the
300
ground.
pounds.
Like Clay Matthews told us that lesson the hard way a couple years ago. And I don't know why it's not being ingrained in these defensive lines' heads.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Marcus Bell says defense closed the game with 2 sacks. When was the last time when was the last time we saw that? Yeah, I think like probably last year against the Panthers on that Thursday night game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, it's been more of an anomaly. But I think that's and be like, hey, we're finally making the bad teams look bad against us. This wasn't the get right game for Zach Wilson. He's number 32 in a lot of quarterbacks' power rankings now. So, and we made sure of that.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people are still stuck on the opinion that we're the worst defense in the NFL. When I'm like, hey, have you made sure that you looked at the Chiefs defense? Have you made sure that you looked at the Dolphins?
Yeah.
Mafia says, congrats on Hawkins for learning a new coaching system and defense and still making plays. He could have hesitated, but he didn't. Yeah, like very instinctive. He, in my article, I wanted to nickname him Ball Hawkins.
Ball Hawkins, I like that.
But that's gonna be yet to be seen. Trufant and Poole were picked up. I saw Trufant get released by the Saints. I don't know about Poole. I don't know where he went.
Poole would be an amazing slot.
I think so too, but I think it's still about the trust system. We haven't seen enough of Avery Williams at the defense, like the slot guy. And if we have everyone healthy, we don't need to worry about the slot guys because we have Isaiah Oliver.
One of the best. He was looking like one of the best in the league this year.
So, I mean, what we think about what our starting lineup would look like, I'm not too worried about it other than the defensive line.
Yeah.
Our secondary has shown an improvement, and that's what Dean Pease likes to focus on first. Our linebacking crew has been really good from the start anyways. Yeah. And now it's just getting help from Grady and Dante from the other two people that really need to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
Like 9 out of the 11 puzzle pieces are there.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 because that other corner slot, I think we need more confidence there.
Mm-hmm.
But I get excited when I see an 0-17 first 2 quarters. Yeah.
Defense is putting work.
That's how it should be.
Like
I hate the fact that we're the type of team that we're the type of crowd that gets scared when we're up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's instilled in us for the last, 4 years?
Some could say even longer than that, but
yeah.
The fact of the matter is, let's talk about that later.
Yeah.
Like I said, this goes into some of the stuff that we've been keeping later. Marcus Bell says less Stephen Means and more Jacob and Walker. They both have a motor, and I don't know why we're not seeing enough of them, man. Maybe it's because they don't have like the weight of Stephen Means, because I think Stephen Means looks bigger and probably pushes a pile a little bit better.
Yeah.
But if he couldn't do anything against the backup tackle for the Jets.
Yeah. And Ogundeji, man, got his first sack. More sweeties.
So even when I said like 9 out of the 11 puzzle pieces, like we still have some of the puzzle pieces in our depth thanks to what we saw in the preseason and what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Mafia also saying, do you guys see Ridley staying or getting traded at this point? And what if he stays out of games with personal issues? That's like the second part of the question is not something that I don't think that we can answer. Mm-hmm. But the first part is, well, again, it goes back to what have we been preaching? It's been accountability, but it's also been that certain trust system.
Yeah.
You know, like I get that at some point he really needs to take his initiative and make sure that, hey, if I want to get paid $11 million next year, because that's what the 5th-year option is, I need to earn it physically.
Yeah.
I can't just earn it, just looking at the numbers alone.
Yeah.
Because I can't get the numbers if I'm dropping passes and if I'm not
Ground
getting
down.
any yards after catch.
Yeah.
So what good is that going to do for the rest of the team when my backup players like Christian Blake are
Yeah.
outperforming me at the same
Yeah.
job that I do?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to make sure that you are still the top guy.
Have to, especially after Julio getting traded. And Pitts is so young.
And Gage is still finding his role in the offense too that we haven't seen enough of.
Yeah.
And Cordell Patterson is always a threat too that we got to think about. Yeah, Marcus Bell said it himself. Nobody ran backwards.
Nobody.
As a matter of fact, you start to see more people like Tajay Sharp run forward.
Yeah, I was surprised from that.
Like I saw this one passing play where it was like a 9-yard slant route. Tajay Sharp caught it at the 50-yard line and didn't get tackled until the 41, or like the 39, which let me know that he got 11 yards after the catch.
Yeah.
If that's happening to Tajay Sharp, like why can't that happen to Ridley? Why can't that happen to the dude that is earning more money?
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people, I think we have to give Ridley a chance. Maybe he can come back and, prove himself. Obviously, it's early in the season, and I don't think he's had ridiculous cornerback matchups because there's nobody that really followed him. But, I think it's more of a mental thing, this confidence and seeing that your teammates are there to get your back and stuff like that.
Yeah, people have made a statement where it's like, Ridley's never really been the number one guy ever since he was at Alabama. But how did he get to Alabama? He had to have been the number one guy in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but Alabama doesn't recruit the number 2 wide receiver on a team in high school.
They don't.
At some point, the mentality had to be there in order for him to get the attention and still get looks from top colleges.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't see that as an excuse at this point because that's how we got to Alabama.
Yeah.
You don't get to a prestigious college like Alabama by playing as a number 2 and being all conservative this way.
Mm-hmm.
You become the head guy at Alabama and get on the field on that roster by being one of the best in the nation.
Be that dude. You have to. And I don't know if this was just me, but earlier in the year, I don't know. I saw something out of Ridley, like when Matt Ryan maybe, because he was getting pressure. Remember the Eagles game so much, could barely get the ball out. And when Matt Ryan would throw it out of bounds, you would see him throw his hands up, and they were calling the play. He looked to the sideline, but what's the play? Like, I don't know if it's a mental thing at this point. Maybe he has to just get into the season's new offense. And I think it's more mental than it is how really is talent,
Yeah, it's an unhealthy combination of a lot of things, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that we can really point to it as just one thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's a small string of things that maybe we try to find the source elsewhere, but I don't know what that source is right now. So, Marcus Bell says, I think Pitts will play more outside and Ridley goes in the slot. The only thing that I would say about that is that, I mentioned this before too, like Pitts is still a raw talent, and he's always getting compared to guys like Darren Waller. But what we need to remember about Darren Waller is that he spent a couple of years as a wide receiver first.
He did.
Kyle Pitts never really had to train and work and run routes like a wide receiver. That's why he's not getting a whole lot of like hand movement and hand placement. He's not really like having like, he needs to have 0 tells on his cuts, on his breaks, on his routes, and if his routes get too obvious because he's not doing all that kind of training, if he's not running hard on plays where he knows he's not going to get the ball, that speaks volumes to what the other players can do on that play too. Like he's either going to be the number 1 guy or he's either going to be the number 1 decoy in the offense too, so that other people can eat.
Yep.
So And because he's got the middle of the field to himself, now the outside is for the guys like Ridley to shine. Now the outside is for the guys like Cordell Patterson to break tackles against a corner and a safety, which we've seen him do. Now it's Mike Davis that gets like one-on-one matchups in the flats and stuff and is able to break those tackles like we've seen. So that's the only thing right there. Like, he needs to become a better route runner. Not to say that he can't, but he's not completely there yet to trust him on the outside on a constant basis.
Yeah.
At least this is my opinion, though. So Devin Johnson says, hope Ridley gets more confidence because he's a good wide receiver. He is, But
we saw what he could do last year.
Yeah. Like, but sometimes the shoe doesn't fit no matter how much you like the shoe. So sometimes the scheme doesn't fit no matter how much you like the player.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at some point we're going to get into our questions because I think we've been about it for a good amount of time. So all right. Let's see if we have this up here. Okay, so we're going to put that up there right there. And who wants to start first? I think I'm still talking a lot. So I'm going to ask you one of my questions first.
Okay.
And let's see. Okay, so here's the first one. It was the first one that I sent you, by the way. Without mentioning any names, all right? Audience participation is recommended here too.
Please.
I don't want to hear any names of any quarterbacks that are in the NFL or in college.
Okay.
But, Daivon, I'm going to hand you a Lego set. I'm going to hand you a Play-Doh set or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I want you to build the next quarterback after Matt Ryan hangs up his cleats.
Okay. I think one that everybody wants to see, and I think this is the way the NFL is moving. Obviously, you want a mobile quarterback after Matt Ryan. And for Arthur Smith's scheme, someone who can run the option, not to the Ravens' extent, but, just to run the option, to be mobile, to run outside the pocket. Obviously, you also want – it's exciting to see someone with a strong arm as well. You definitely want to see that, especially when you play off of play action. Everybody sucked up into the run game. You could throw a deep ball down the field. I think what's underappreciated is, and I can't bring this up, is Matt Ryan. His accuracy and also his smarts. He doesn't try to do too much. You want a quarterback that can come in and not try to be a hero and someone that doesn't have such a big ego, like you see in the league. You pretty much just want to, I say, fans, I can bring it's with our questions as well later, but, fans need to appreciate Matt Ryan for what he can do. The things that he provides, if you can put something like mobility and a strong arm in that is an amazing quarterback. I think that could definitely be one of the type of, come like they said, Justin Fields type. Yeah, someone like that, I know his name, but I think that those attributes would be very good for a quarterback after Matt Ryan.
Okay. So when you talked about ego for a second, because the city of Atlanta is very influential.
Yeah.
If you're a young quarterback on the Falcons and you're hoping to be the next successor for a quarterback such as Matt Ryan, there is going to be a lot of responsibility. There's going to be a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of encouragement as well. But there's a lot of nerves. There's a lot of tension that's going to be brought up on a player. And sometimes it's a little bit too overwhelming. All right. And we've seen examples in the past where, not just former Falcons like Roddy White, but also guys like Vince Young and other quarterbacks that they were just lost in the limelight because they just came out of college. They don't normally get paid. And now they're handed a lot of money in a prominent city with a lot of people backing them. And sometimes for good or for bad, they don't they sometimes fizzle out a little bit too quicker.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to ask for a quarterback to not have that kind of ego. Because what have we been
True.
seeing
Let's take that
recently?
position.
We've been seeing Trevor Lawrence talk a lot about his ego. We've been seeing Zach Wilson talk a lot about, what his ability can do and why he's the best one. We've seen a lot about what Justin Fields and Mac Jones is trying to get himself in that conversation. Trey Lance has also boasted about his physical talent too. So when I take a look at what was that?
I was like, sorry, I didn't add this. This is one thing that I always talk about when I watch the Falcons, and I'm not blaming Matt Ryan, but I want a quarterback that like he showed Sunday, on the sideline, fired up, leading this team, like gets upset, shows more, not too much emotion, but just is a leader, goes on the sideline, yells at the players when they need to, but and yells to get people fired up, just a leader, just a natural born leader at the QB position. I don't think that, it's not common to have that type of leader like an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady. And for the Falcons to get that, I think that would be an amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
on the field.
Again,
now
right.
Aaron Rodgers not off the field, but on the field.
Well, I mean, you're gonna make me talk about Matt Ryan a little bit later after the on the show, but
yeah.
So I'm gonna save some of my comments to then. Okay. But one thing that I do want to mention is that we've seen a lot of mobile quarterbacks, and not to necessarily put the blame on them for this situation, but I think in the past couple of decades, we've seen the emergence of like mobile quarterbacks with a deep arm. And that's what we were accustomed to early on as Falcons fans. That's what other teams have been accustomed to. Like even now, we've seen the mobile quarterback with the big arm. Sometimes I want to say that they're not always put in the best scenario, or they're not. Whatever the case may be, I don't really want to put the blame on the quarterback alone, but I really had to think about when was the last time a mobile quarterback with that kind of build had major accomplishments in the league. Like what was the last mobile quarterback to win the Super Bowl? I can't count Patrick Mahomes as a mobile quarterback.
Yeah, like not.
If you want to talk about Russell Wilson in 2012 or 2013, he was the game manager at that point. He wasn't his mobile self at that time. If we want to go even further back to 1994 with Steve Young, he had 6 passing touchdowns that season or in that Super Bowl. So that wasn't won with his legs. I had to go down to like the 50s back when Otto Graham was the quarterback for the Browns in order to find the last mobile quarterback to really have an impact. And by that time, the NFL changed so much in terms of what it's asking for certain positions. Mm-hmm. So, again, not to blame the mold of the quarterback here, because I do think that it brings more excitement to the league. And we've seen that right now. Like more people want to tune in when they see the flashier player.
Yeah, Mark Jackson.
Right. It's still very early on in some of these guys' careers, but it brings up the notion that if whoever's the first one to succeed is going to be instantly the best out of all of them. All right. Whoever's the first person to actually win the Super Bowl with that mold is going to be put up in like the Steve Young conversations and whatnot, like because they were kind of the first ones to do it. And if that's the case, then more and more teams are going to look for that mold because, hey, now that's the new thing. That's what the NFL's looking for. Yeah. And it really takes out like the non-mobile quarterbacks. I wouldn't say pocket passers or statues because some of them can still move around, but they still have the threat of the pass as the first threat. Mm-hmm. And that's still a key feature right there. It's making sure that they do their job well as the quarterback and that job description first. Yeah. Because having legs and having a certain type of arm strength is kind of icing to the cake, but for me, it's not the cake. I take a look at the mold, and excuse me, it starts all up in the head, right? It starts with decision making. It starts with how much do you trust your players?
Yeah.
You know, how much do you have confidence in what you're seeing? You know, and also how much is put on your plate right away.
Yeah.
You know, if you're at week one expected to go out there and be the savior of the franchise, how many people have done that in the past 15 years? Two, three, four? Point is, I can count on one hand.
Yeah.
The amount of anomalies. You know, like certain quarterbacks, they do really well when they are in that mold. Take a look at Dak Prescott's rookie season. Take a look at Deshaun Watson's rookie season. Take a look at Lamar Jackson's season after his rookie season. You know, we saw the increase with Josh Allen's production. We saw the increase with
he even put Herbert in there, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to mention him. So yes, these mobile guys, they're getting the job done now. But who's in the championship games? It's still those guys.
That's always in there that just has crazy, smart. He's not mobile at all, but he's in there every year.
He's you know, I hate to say this coming from me, but he's consistently one of the smartest people in the league. You know, it's really hard for him to make a wrong decision. Now, I know that the offense really helps him with like the easy decisions that he's got to make, you know, with a lot of the dump offs and whatnot, but he's now in a position where he can throw the occasional deep pass in order to keep the safeties back.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of affects the play then. It's like, oh man, like now these guys like Antonio Brown and Mike Evans, crap, they can stretch the field. Chris Godwin too. Scotty Miller too. Like these guys can stretch the field, and not so much, but
from that deep ball,
you got to give him like a 5-second head start.
you do. He's not. See, even that route, I wasn't expecting. It was when we played him. He ran that corner route. Like he can really stretch field as far as the intermediate and the seam routes that he runs sometimes. It's that offense, and like you said, the weapons he has is it's too many, honestly.
Yeah. So one of the things I was this is kind of like a follow-up question to what we've already said. Okay, so now that we have the quarterback, but what kind of offense do we want to see them in, and who could who could we see as their weapons?
I kind of like, honestly, Shanahan's West Coast offense. I think it's a good to get to establish the run so it can open up the pass. You know, I don't know. You talking about what's exciting and what can win games, you know?
That's kind of what Arthur Smith is running right now.
Yeah,
so that's a good thing.
Perfect. Yeah. I think Arthur Smith was one of the ideal coaches. If you would have brought in was it Eric Bieniemy, I think you would have had to change, you know, a lot of things, a lot of players, you know, faster receivers, they can stretch the field, it's more passing, you know. So I think we brought in the right coach for that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get into some of these comments over here. Mr. Wright was saying the Justin Fields type. I said no names, but anyways.
Yes.
Daivon Johnson, the quarterback from Cincinnati. You're still kind of saying a name with that. Felipe Franks. Yeah, that's still a name. Eric McDowell, thank you. We got more to come. Mr. Wright says, I would love to see us have a decent O-line with a mobile quarterback. Matt would be better if we had one now. Mandel says Matt Mine is making the O-line look better every week. We're going to get into that discussion a little bit later too. Daivon Johnson, I said no names. Superior Kitten, how's it going? Matt Corral, Jackson. I said no names. Anyways. All right. So what was the question that you're going to ask me now?
Okay. This goes along with it. Why does our fan base hate Matt Ryan so much?
Oh, you're starting off with a loaded question, but it's good that we have the amount of people that we do in order to have this discussion started. So I thought about it, right, and I had to make a little PowerPoint presentation. I'm not going to show it, but it's just because that's too boring. But I had to really like outline my thoughts of what I was going to think about this question because I wanted to ask it myself from a fan's perspective and then from
Mhm.
my own perspective, right? So what would it take for me to hate Matt Ryan? It's a tough question to ask right now, especially if you're one of us that have been pro Matt Ryan for the
Yeah.
last 14 years. So I think, you know, hey, this question started off by saying, in your opinion,
Yeah.
all
Your
right?
opinion.
I can't speak for everyone,
Hmm.
but what I what I can imagine is, the first thing that I said was maybe there were a lot of people that were placing bets on the Super Bowl, and then they lost those bets, and now they're really like resentful towards the person who they think is the blame.
Hmm.
I think that something like that can really stem there, and I mean, there's the rebuttal there that I'm going to get into later. Um, the second thing that I thought of was uh, just his play style and the era at the quarterback position right now.
Yeah.
Um, Ty Bonds is almost going to usurp me. He says, me personally, I feel like people hold that Super Bowl loss over his head. Also, a lot of people wish Vic was around longer. I honestly think he's getting in the Hall of Fame. Sounds like a good career to me. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you think about this, guys. In the next 10 years, the next quarterback is going to have to break Matt Ryan's records and milestones.
Yeah.
And if he can't do that, I'm sorry. In your guys' minds, he didn't even live up to Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
And you didn't think
It's
highly
gonna
of
be
him.
hard.
Like he is shortening that list as his career progresses,
Hmm.
So I spent a lot of years trusting in Matt to be let down, unfair because he really hasn't had has a line consistently to be fair. Right. So um about like the play style and stuff like that, like I know that he's not my favorite quarterback to watch, not this season. And I don't really think that I've really said that a whole lot. But is he the quarterback for the Falcons? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to defend him to heck and high water
Yeah.
because I chose the team because I love the sport. I didn't choose the player first. I chose
Yeah.
whoever's rocking the red and black for us.
Hmm.
And that's going to keep that way whether Matt Ryan stays or goes. I'm not entitled to a certain person or player that's on the team
Yeah.
because I think that's what some people are. Like they're more entitled or they idolize a certain player first and then they lose their respect for the team over time.
Hmm.
So I think there's that aspect to that. And then the third thing was simply expectations. I think they've constantly raised the goalpost. They've moved it back for all this different times, and whenever he's met those requirements, they kept pushing it back, right? So it's like at the starting of his career, he's like, oh man, now he can't win a playoff game. And then he wins a playoff game against the Seahawks. And I was like, well, he can't win the other game. And then eventually he wins that game,
Hmm.
and then he can't win the Super Bowl. Well, he did pretty dang good at it.
One
I'm
of the best
sorry, but the
QB
fourth,
performances of
but
all
the
time.
exactly of all time.
Of all time. That's what's crazy about it.
But go ahead and blame the kid that got the A+ on the assignment when the other people in the group project didn't even show up.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, and it was like, oh hey, well, it was only Julio, right? So do the same thing without Julio. He's doing that right now.
Yep.
He's got
Yeah.
the same touchdown to interception ratio as Aaron Rodgers right now, as Kyler Murray right now.
He was on fire last couple of weeks too.
Okay, that's all I'm saying, right? So we take a look at our expectations of him. They constantly get higher and higher and higher, and it's unreachable. So when I'm saying like the next quarterback to step in for the Falcons, is that bar still going to be this high up,
Bro.
or is it going to get lower? Are we going to go back to the baby steps? Because
Man.
we can't increase the ceiling so far up so that the floor gets elevated before they even step on the field. Because the next
Yeah.
couple of quarterbacks can disappoint. Heck, look at our quarterback history.
Yeah. Matt Ryan, man.
So when we talk about the role, the responsibility of the player, That's a lot to put on a person's plate right now. And that's why all these rookie quarterbacks are struggling, because they're being they're being tossed out of the oven. They're coming out half baked.
Yeah.
All right, even the best performing quarterback right now as a rookie is Mac Jones, and even then he's got like 5 touchdowns but 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
So it's still wishy-washy because they're not meant to be in that position right now.
Yeah.
So when we have, so yeah, that was kind of the end of my thought there.
Yeah.
From my perspective, though, I don't think it's necessarily a question about why do the fans hate Matt Ryan. It's why are the fans so hateful?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Because my first point to that is like, I don't really think they know how to properly place the blame. I was trying to have like a quick chat with someone else in the comments section of something, and they were like, well, the quarterback is always going to be the leader and he's always going to take the responsibility, so that's why we blame him. I'm like, for me personally, I want to blame the people that deserve to be blamed.
Yeah.
So if the defense was to blame, then blame the defense. We've seen blown leads so far in this season alone from other teams. Look at the Colts. And yet, who was blaming Carson Wentz? Nobody. Last week against the Giants, for the Aints, when they blew that 11-point lead with 7 minutes left in the game to the Giants, who was blaming Jameis Winston? Nobody. They don't know how to place the blame.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're still stuck in the stigma that, well, if you're the quarterback, then you got to own up to everything that your team does. That's too much to ask for.
Nobody blaming Mahomes like that.
Right. Look at the Chiefs defense. They just got blown the heck out by the Bills. Who's blaming Mahomes? Nobody.
I remember watching that Chargers game. He threw it was like a no-look pass, interception. Nobody even blamed him for that.
Exactly. They give him the benefit of the doubt because they seen that he can do better than that, right? We've said the same thing about Matt Ryan for years, all right? Yeah. About that Super Bowl, right? He could have had this whole like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed about what's going on. He took us to the playoffs and we were 1 play away from the championship game again. And we could have beat the Vikings.
Yeah, bro.
We could have been right back in the Super Bowl the very next year. Talk about a hangover. He didn't give one. Did he give one the next year? Absolutely not. Take a look at those stats and compare them to 2016. You're almost looking at a mirror.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that the defense was hurt. It didn't matter that the offense was inconsistent with the offensive line and the people were still dropping passes and there were still a bunch of flags and whatnot. On top of that, he still had to learn more coaches. He still had to learn all this stuff. And he's doing it all in front of a bunch of people that don't even care for him anymore.
Yeah.
Again, appreciate the quarterback that you have right now.
Man, and people don't understand that.
And dude, last year, was anyone blaming Deshaun Watson for the Texans going 4-12?
Nobody. Deshaun Watson.
Because it was the fast quarterback that can throw far, right?
Yep.
That was the mold. That was what they wanted to root for. So even if he didn't play up to par, which again, I'm not blaming him, but if other people are blaming Matt Ryan, I'm sorry, but if you set the double standard, then I can follow it too, can I?
Yeah.
This isn't a one-way street here. My second question is, they can't control their emotions. They are so up and down and high and low. They're like a drug addict at this point.
Yeah, I see that.
The highs and lows of a drug addict. It's super high, then it's super low. All right.
Yeah.
Earlier today, the social media posts for the Falcons, they were like, they're going to take a break for this whole week or whatever to appreciate the mental awareness week that happened last week, but I digress. Point is, they were trying to do that, and people were still making fun of them.
Sometimes, man.
They can't control their emotions, all right? First of all, they're trolls. They hate just to hate, and they don't care who they're trying to hate on. But, hey, if you're going to hate the right people.
At least
All
do
right.
that.
So yeah, at least do that. At least hate on Thomas Dimitrov for not building a good core to win around.
Missing on defensive, just missing on
To
defense in general his whole career. Like honestly,
not giving your team good depth if any one person goes hurt.
yeah.
All right. So we take all this into account. And my third thing was that there's a lot of people that think this way, right? Like, oh, hey, let's hate on Matt Ryan because he's a choker and all this other stuff. Even though every freaking team's done that in the history, all right. The majority vote does not equate to the correct vote. How many people in this country can't drive, can't cook, can't perform their own job successfully? All right. How many people are on drugs, on too much alcohol, or have just. There's a lot of people that need the mental help. They're not getting it because they're raised around a bunch of arrogance. They're raised about a bunch of like internet bullies and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, hey, well, I have to have the skin in order to do this, right? So it's not working.
Yeah.
That they're too stubborn to realize that it's not working.
Yeah.
If they could just get the help that they need, they won't have to live on this emotional roller coaster every single game. They won't have to be so scared about, oh, hey, what are the Falcons going to do? Because we're only relevant for 22 weeks of the year, guys.
Yeah.
And that's if we perform up to the best possible status.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If we can't do that, I'm sorry, but I can't trust your opinion if you really think that your way is right all the time, no matter what, even if it's consistently proven wrong.
Yep.
And
I can understand if they would change their opinion, like if Matt Ryan does good, they're like, oh, he had a great week. Let's see if he can do it next week. It's not usually like that. They kind of wait until he has something goes wrong and go, oh, I told you so. Matt Ryan's
or they make other excuses. I think the next excuse that can come up is, oh, you need to throw to Kyle Pitts more. And then when they throw to Kyle Pitts and then they lose, oh my God, Matt Ryan, you only throw to Kyle Pitts. That's why you suck. I'm gonna watch the next game religiously.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Like, he's put in such a doomed if you do, doomed if you don't situation where, oh, this guy's got to get more targets, or no, now you're losing, so why are you doing this? It's like, oh, hey, listen to us, and then why did you listen to us? It's such a, you can't win.
Yeah.
All right,
Devon
and
Johnson
we're not.
A great comment. That was a great comment.
What was that?
I said Devon Johnson brought a great comment.
Read it.
The fans that hate Matt Ryan's gonna want the next QB to be Matt Ryan. That's confusing. Like and I totally agree with that because
all you have to do is be better than Matt Ryan.
He's the 8th all time in passing, and if you look at his everything, fourth quarter comebacks, like how many QBs are gonna be able to do that coming in? Directly coming in, just like Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco did, brought this team to the playoffs first year. His first NFL pass was a touchdown. It's gonna be hard to replicate that.
So the one last thing that I can do, at least, is, some of the things that a lot of the haters I want to say is like, well, he's only just a stats guy. All right. Let me defend Matt Ryan without using any stats. All right. I'm not even going to bring up his accomplishments. I'm not even going to bring up anything. So my first thing that I want to talk about is team building. All right. I'm going to use an analogy here. It might not make sense at first, but hear me out. I think that a team, when it's built, can be like a wedding cake. It's layered, all right? It's got strong depth at the bottom, and it's got a good core in the middle, and it gets smaller and smaller until what? You finally see the two people that, even up my fingers. You see the two people that matter the most on that occasion, right? When you build the team, or when you build that cake, You don't put those finishing pieces first on the bottom. You don't start from them. You start from a good nucleus. And then you build up from that foundation over years and years of work. And then once you get those two final finishing pieces for both the offense and the defense, they're going to get all the credit, they're going to get all the blame, and it's rightfully so at that point. But if you can't build the team properly, we've seen this time and time again. It doesn't matter what quarterback you throw back there. They can't win. Because the team, the other 52 people around them, were not built for success yet. All right? That's no stats. That's just situational football. And that's just making sure that not a ton is put on their plate right away. And guess what was put on their plate right away? That was Matt Ryan. All right? Back in 2008, he was told to lead the team to the playoffs. I know he wasn't really told that. He could have had really low expectations and just been given a couple of years to improve like Aaron Rodgers did. But he gave us that playoff berth right away.
Right away.
How many quarterbacks have done that? How many top 3 quarterbacks, right, that came out of the draft really exceeded up to their expectations?
I can't tell you.
Andrew Luck, and that's about it.
Yeah.
He and Matt Ryan are the only 2 quarterbacks that were drafted high on a bad team with a rookie head coach and took their team to the playoffs from starting week 1.
I mean, look at what's happening to Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson right now.
And guess whose career ended first? Andrew Luck. Because they couldn't build the cake around him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, second point that I wanted to talk about. All right, and I kind of touched on this before. It's his role and his responsibility as a quarterback. All right, his role early on was to make the completions, and if you're not told to that, and if you're not told to do that, then just give the ball to Michael Turner. We won with that formula. We had 3 straight winning seasons at a time where the franchise had never had back-to-back winning seasons ever.
He's amazing.
He wasn't the centerpiece,
Nope.
but it was great because he didn't have to right away, and he still took over games. He still won team. He still had his game-winning drives. He still showed that he belonged on the team, that he belonged on the field. All right. One of the best examples of that was that 2008 game against the Chicago Bears. It was a very low-scoring game, but there was 11 seconds left, and Matt Ryan and the Falcons had just had the kickoff. They ran one play, and it was a deep out to Harry Douglas, and he made that throw. It was perfect, on the money, on the spot where only Harry Douglas can catch it. If it wasn't Harry Douglas, it would have been like Michael Jenkins or whatever. But they brought Jason Elam out there to make that field goal in order to win the game. They won. All right? He had 11 seconds with no timeouts against the Bears defense that just were 2 years removed from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He won that game. All right? And that was just a glimpse of what we saw from early on in his career. This is what I'm not seeing yet from these other rookies.
No.
All right? He had his expectations met, but his role and his responsibility were still not there yet. It was still not – he wasn't asked to do a ton. And then all of a sudden, once we got to like 2012, once we got to 2013, 80% of the offense was just him. And it was like that from 2013 up until really today.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you can't win with that. And he still tried his best to do that anyways. Like, even in 2014, we didn't go to the playoffs. We were 6-10, but guess who made the Pro Bowl? That was Matt Ryan, because he did his absolute best in order to stay there, in order to keep him in games. All right? And we take a look at our history again, right? We take a look at What's going on, Mike?
How you doing?
I think the great one needs an introduction. I need a Paul Heyman. Somebody be Paul Heyman for us, okay?
Right.
I don't want to introduce myself. I don't
In
feel
the
like
third column, coming in with two big guys that are ready to look at every sin you've ever committed in your life. It's the great one, the mad scientist, Mr. Mad Mike Sports. How you doing tonight?
That's what I like that. I like that. What's going on, fellas? I don't have no clue what you guys are talking about.
Oh, don't mind me. I was just defending Matt Ryan is all.
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan?
Yeah, I was just on my little tangents, and my third point that I was about to get to, because I give myself a responsibility right away to, like, hey, if I'm going to defend Matt Ryan not using stats and accomplishments, this is what I'm going to bring up for. And my third point, because my first two was the team building had to be up to par, and it wasn't for a long time. The role and responsibility, it wasn't a lot on his plate early on, but he exceeded the expectations to the point where once the bar was set incredibly high, no other quarterback could have done that, and yet he still tried his best. And the third point, he's a professional on and off the field every single week. All right, I never have to worry about who the heck our starting quarterback's going to be ever since 2008. All right, he's been showing up. It didn't matter if he was hurt. It didn't matter if he was showing signs that he was hurt. He was going to step up in front of the plate every single snap for us. It didn't matter if we were up. It didn't matter if we were down. It didn't matter if we had no reason to lose, or if we had no reason to win. The fact is that he still shows up in front of a crowd that doesn't like him and does his best, never loses his cool, whether he's on the field, off the field, against the media, on his social media. It doesn't matter, all right? And heck, being a professional is something that you should really admire about, because guess what's happening elsewhere? We're starting to see some people that are no longer being professional about what they've done in the past,
even Tom Brady. You say anything negative about him, you can see him get real petty. I'm gonna bring back my boy Gronk. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. You know, guess who's never had the ego? Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Guess who's never talked bad about the teammates that may have talked bad about him, like Julio Jones? Matt Ryan. Guess who's never spilled any things, made any headlines about negativity, and always, hey, he even cracks a joke every now and then. That let you know that his emotions are still intact.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, it's one thing that I always remember from Matt Ryan. And this is probably the most underrated aspect of every just being a football player. He's teachable.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna just let that sink in for a second. He's teachable.
He's been such a phenomenal sponge in so many different offenses.
So many defenses, so many offenses, so much turnover, and he still has the same attitude. You don't have to worry about him crying about, oh, I need a running back, I need a wide receiver. He just adapts.
Yeah. Guess what he said after the draft when we drafted Kyle Pitts? He's like, oh, hey, cool, we drafted Kyle Pitts. He's like, he wasn't clamoring for he wasn't clamoring on Terry Fontenot to be like, oh, hey, draft me a weapon because I need it so badly. He's never been that dude. All right, he's going to show up whether he's got Julio Jones and Roddy White and Tony Gonzalez and Michael Turner, or whether he's got Drew Davis, Kevin Cohn, Chase Kaufman, and Jacquizz Rodgers. It does not matter. He's going to go out there and give you the yards that he's been wanting.
That was bothering me. I don't like seeing my.
I know.
I already have a long face, and I'm like. All right, yeah. But like you said, man, it comes down to being teachable. I think that's one of the most underrated aspects of being an NFL player is that be willing to adapt and understanding that um, players around you have weaknesses. So if you are gifted like a Julio, if you're gifted like a Matt Ryan, and you can play in whatever scheme and make it work, I mean, do what's best for the team. That's what it all comes down to. It. Yeah, I might be, like again, I might be Julio, and I may be a LeBron James, but not everybody's LeBron. Not everybody can play in the same scheme. Not everybody can play a certain way. So him being able to, this is what we're seeing with the Atlanta Falcons right now. I mean, you got Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the same type of guy. You're seeing him. He's not worrying about whether or not he's going to get the ball. It's all about being willing to adjust. Not every player wants to adjust. And this is why Quintorez is in Tennessee, because he wasn't willing to adjust.
Yeah. Just taking a look at some of these comments over here. DD is bringing up a good point. It says the thing that kills us is how the players were so happy to play in London. The crowd was actually cheering them on. Yeah, like give some props to the London crowd over there, man. Like the fact that I was watching other YouTube channels and they were insulting them because they didn't think that they had the football knowledge in order to appreciate what was going on. Guess what, guys? They did. Because they are from the standpoint that they appreciate the sport more than they appreciate any particular team.
Yeah.
I think that's a better mindset that you have to start off with right away when you get into a sport like this, because it is passionate all around. It is very regional, so there's so many different phases of football that you need to pay attention to. There's a lot of moving pieces, it's a lot less than guys like baseball or basketball or soccer. There's a lot more players. There's a lot more schemes. There's a lot more money that's being tossed around. It's on our heads every single Sunday in the winter. All right, so they want to know, hey, what the heck is making this so passionate over here? What is having this on our mind every single week? Even on the game, even in weeks that we're not even playing the game. What is making us have these highs and lows of emotions? All right, they didn't really care about who was showing up. The fact that they appreciated the NFL for even noticing them at all, they didn't have to expand. They don't have to go to Mexico City. They don't have to go to Germany. They don't have to go to Russia. This sport was always built in North America. And for heck, we could have kept it here. But no, we want other people taking an interest. We want more people to join in on the conversations. All right? Doesn't matter what language you speak. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter, what is your other backgrounds in terms of other important things in your life. All right? The fact of the matter is we want other people to join in on the conversations.
I have a question for you guys. What is it you guys think as far as just, for me personally, I just think that fans have been spoiled to a certain degree. So do you guys think is one of the main reasons why fans don't cheer as much? Because you go for Atlanta, California, New York, not everybody. Maybe Philadelphia, those guys are kind of ungrateful, and Atlanta, we know Georgia in certain areas are ungrateful. Do you think that is one of the main reasons why we see fans, not appreciate certain players? It's because we've always had maybe a superstar. Atlanta's never had any lack of a superstar. In our sport, baseball, basketball, we've always had that star. So you gotta think that is a contributing factor as far as the fan base being, just so negative towards guys that have actually put in the work, like a Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I totally.
Daivon, what are your thoughts?
Like, Matt Ryan, like I agree with that point as well, because Matt Ryan's never had that like you said, that ego. He's teachable, and he doesn't act out against the coaches, or he doesn't have that like I'm gonna talk trash to fans that boo me, or just have that personality like a Johnny Manziel coming out of college or anything. He was a professional the whole way, and I think the fans, seeing like Trae Young now and Deion Sanders back then, like we always had those. They're just outlandish, like telling the New York crowd to shut up, like it's just Matt Ryan's not that guy, so I do think that's why the fans aren't as high on him, because of that.
And on my side of things, kind of just lost my train of thought for a second. But when I was going on, Tomalocks actually brought up a good point. If Dan Marino had nothing to prove, Matt Ryan has nothing to prove. Okay, got my thought again. If he has an ego, he could have retired already. He's got his money. He's got his accolades. He's got his 2 ice cubes that he's been raised. He's got a family. He still has a chip in his shoulder. He still has something to prove to the fan base that want to doubt him. Yeah. That's the only thing that's keeping him here in my opinion. He's never been the highest paid quarterback. He's never been the one with the most attention, even on the times where he was the MVP. He's always had a chip on his shoulder. He's always had something to prove. Even if our side of the fan base, like, hey, we're satisfied with his career already. He can leave right now, and I'd have no problems with it because he's done whatever he can in order to deserve it. All right? And that's the respect that we got to give him at the end of the day. We need to appreciate these people while they're still here on our team and while they're still doing good for us. If we can't do that, why do you think that we deserve someone better? We really can't find someone better right now. Not right away.
You'll never find another. You'll never find a quarterback better than Matt. I said this over and over again. When you look at his career from the start and up until this point, there's never been a quarterback more consistent than him outside of Peyton Manning. You can say Tom Brady all you want, but Tom Brady has always had that great offensive coach. I mean, not coach, but that's the great Bill Belichick. He's had stability. Yeah. He's had like Matt Ryan is like it's hell. Let's be honest. It's pure hell trying to get a defense here in Atlanta. Like everything you try to do. Try to get a defense, try to build a defense. Nope. It doesn't happen. Yeah. And this guy still puts up 4,000, 25 plus touchdowns, 15 or less interceptions. That's never
average.
That's all they say.
You know what I'm saying? It's never in the history of the only quarterback is Peyton Manning. He's the only guy, and he just surpassed his numbers. So what are we talking about? He's the most underrated quarterback in the history of the game. He's done things that no other. The only thing that he has not accomplished as a quarterback is a Super Bowl. He's done everything.
Even award, then, he was 99% completed with that task as well.
He really should. He did everything he could that game.
Mm-hmm. He's won every award a quarterback can win. There's nothing he has not done.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And you talked about his coachability. We wanted a mobile quarterback, and guess what? He's working on speed training this offseason. He doesn't have to do that.
Right.
He's trying to take on the responsibility of his own read.
Yeah, running options and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And also, he's been mentoring these other people, all right? Why do you think Josh Rosen had such a high start? Because he clung to Matt Ryan. Why do you think Felipe Franks is getting involved in this offense, even as like a Taysom Hill type of player? That's because Arthur Smith and Matt Ryan and David Gone, they also have that confidence in their players in order to keep them on the field and just let them do whatever they can.
And
all right,
it's crazy that people the bun of the joke of the 20-3, and this makes me upset because we all watched the game. Is Matt Ryan, and we all know it was not his fault. Kyle Shanahan should get the majority of the blame, but then again,
sorry to cut you off, but he already admitted that was a mistake. All right, and look to the point where where everyone wanted to be like, well, hey, how come you didn't switch it off to a run play? How come you didn't audible it? Guess what? Because he didn't audible it, he doesn't have to get the blame for that. And that's why years later, once it's out of the question, Kyle Shanahan admitted it. He admitted it that was his mistake.
Yep, and he blew the lead against
Matt Ryan didn't have to have that blame on him because he trusted the people that got him up to that point. And if you lose the trust in that, guess what? Your offense is now dysfunctional at the most crucial point of the game.
Quarterback position. Yep.
You can't be doing that kind of stuff in a situation like that, especially when it's worked so many times that season.
Yeah.
You can't name 10 more offenses that was more potent than that one.
Nope.
And what are you going to try to do? You're going to try to blame the only person that got you that far?
Yeah.
I mean, you can say, hey, it was actually Julio that made the catch. Dude, did you see the throw, though?
Bro, that throw is one of the
on
best
the run
of all time.
Something that other people said that Matt Ryan couldn't do.
I've never seen any quarterback make that.
I don't know about you, but that throw looked pretty deep and had some zip on it.
It's only a few people in the league who can make that throw. The dude made that throw on the run, okay? He made that throw on the run. Let me
with the pressure of Tom Brady on the other sideline.
On the run.
That is sideline. Only where only Julio can catch that. That is.
Eric Rowe's a tall dude.
Yes. Like 6'1", 6'2".
Yes. So I'm sorry, but that catch doesn't happen if that throw doesn't happen.
Yep. Nobody gives Matt the credit in that.
That right there by Malik Holmes right there. Not many people have won MVP and offensive player of the year. I got to throw that offensive rookie of the year. All right. We got to, again, not many quarterbacks in the league has won every award. He's won every award there is for a quarterback to win. Just think about that. Not many quarterbacks. Tom Brady has not done that. Drew Brees hasn't done that. Brett Favre hasn't done that. He's the only guy.
Yeah.
And he's got more Pro Bowls to his name than what the NFL gives him credit for. He's just declined them.
Yeah.
He should really have like 6 or 7, but because he didn't make the trip to Hawaii or wherever the Pro Bowl was held in, they don't give him the credit, so they subbed him out. Which is why we have the picture of Mitch Trubisky in the Pro Bowl, because that was Matt Ryan's spot.
Yeah.
But Matt Ryan didn't want to go there because he had a hand injury, and so the next best voted guy was Mitch, like because the Bears had a 12-4 season and yada yada. But first of all, how hard is it in order to get a Pro Bowl in Atlanta to get recognized by the country that often? And he got it even on a losing season. I'm sorry, but that speaks volumes right there. The fact that you got a Pro Bowl and a 6-10 record, that showed that we know what the Pro Bowl is. It's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
He's getting votes in the same era as Tom Brady. All right, let's just go with the NFC, right? He's getting votes in the same conference as Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and just a couple of other guys to name a few, right? Yeah. He's still getting votes in them. All right? He's got more MVP votes to his name than Russell Wilson has in his career. He's done something that not even Drew Brees has done.
Yep. The whole Matt Ryan thing, like there's even some people saying that he's not even gonna make the Hall of Fame. Those are ignorant fans, but they're just like he's not gonna make the Hall of Fame. Like I said, the reason why is if you put that personality on Matt Ryan, like a Deion Sanders or Trey Young, you put that personality on Matt Ryan, maybe more people just start to like him just because of that. So I do think that is a big reason that people don't like him, honestly. It's insane that.
At the end of the day, the only reason why people really love Tom Brady, and I'm just gonna say it, I really don't give a damn. I'm tired anyway. But it's the only reason, one of the main reasons why people like Tom Brady is because he's the all-American white guy. He's a pretty GQ model. That's pretty much what it is. Look, that's just what it is. If he didn't look as handsome as he did, nobody would give a shit about him.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. He's a pretty guy. That's it. Tom Brady doesn't have a big arm. He doesn't get bashed because he doesn't have a big arm. Nobody even said, oh, Tom Brady can't throw the ball deep. Tom Brady's never been able to throw the ball deep. But somehow that moniker goes to Matt Ryan. Drew Brees has never been able to throw the ball deep consistently like that. But somehow that moniker is attached to Matt Ryan. At the end of the day, he's just a pretty white boy. And look,
you know something else that was
I say what I got to say, and y'all don't have to like it, all right? But at the end of the day, that's the truth. We got to get out of just putting, a stamp on a guy and just see for players for what they are. They step on the field and they give their all, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. You should be judged by your ability to play the game, not what you look like, not what you say on the field. It's all about the play. And that's where I get so frustrated because everybody want to judge players based on some nonsense. He's not vocal enough. He's not this. Like, at the end of the day, is he throwing touchdowns? Is he scoring touchdowns? Is he catching the ball? Yeah. Like, that's all that fucking matters.
That's all that matters.
Another moniker that got put on Matt Ryan was that he was a dome quarterback.
Oh, yeah. What the?
But then Drew Brees played in a dome. Peyton Manning played in a dome. Where were their excuses? Last time I checked, Boston College wasn't in a dome. How the heck did he get drafted then if he only performs all in a dome?
My man said stop.
And by the way, is Boston College the type of college to bring out like this to just develop these quarterbacks? The last quarterback that was really notable that came out of there was Doug Flutie. How many other Boston College quarterbacks have came out since?
Tom Brady. Wait, he said Tom Brady can't throw deep.
Have you seen them lollipops he be throwing in there? They kept in there for 15 hours. Tom Brady
is no Josh Allen.
He's not Josh Allen at all.
No. As far as ours, nope.
Again, Tom Brady will be beaten by Matt Ryan this season, guaranteed. I don't like predictions. I hate them because anytime Tom Brady comes, some flags and all types of weird shit happens. So I'm never betting on anything has anything to do with Brady.
Yeah, especially since the next one, like the next matchup is going to be held in our place, and we already know how inconsistent the refs have been in there.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
It's going to be awful. But all right, I think we've kind of done all we can about that for now. We got to get to our other questions. They're not going to be as loaded. I think there's still one of them that is. But so my next question for you, Daivon, and maybe Mike can chime in on this as well. Okay, this was more of like a general question, but it's or a philosophical question, okay, if you will. So, in the future, do you want to see this team play to our strengths or play up against the strengths of the opponent? And how much does the opponent factor into that philosophy? So, do we just go out and do our best that we can on what we know, or should we try to beat our opponent and just match up well against them?
I like the second one more because I know it's one game, example, but an example for me would be the Chiefs last year and the Falcons. If you play to the Falcons' weaknesses or their strengths, you could easily score more than 17 points because we had a horrendous defense last year, and they only still managed to score 17 points, but they played right into our hands because we knew their strength and we stopped it. So I think if the Falcons could play, to other opponents' weaknesses, I think that you will easily be able to, perform better than, if you play to your strengths, Yeah,
because this question isn't not just about like how we play, but it's also how we build the team too. Like sometimes, like I think back to the draft, right? I think back to what the Panthers did. right, when they first drafted J.C. Horn, one of the only people that I really before the draft happened, there was like this constant stigma that the only person that was capable of stopping Kyle Pitts was J.C. Horn. And then what the Panthers do? They drafted J.C. Horn. So, I mean, sometimes it's like I said, it's not just on the field or off the field. It's some of the smaller, intricate details that we keep preaching.
Yeah.
Mike, what were your thoughts on that again?
The game of football is pretty simple. I think it depends on the type of quarterback that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a quarterback like Matt Ryan, who it doesn't matter what system that you run, he can adjust. Like Matt Ryan in the fourth quarter, if the running game and the offensive line is not playing, he can still make things happen. Just he's that damn good. Mm-hmm. So I think it depends on the type, again, the quarterback, because this is why the quarterback get paid the most money, because everything goes through them. You can call a play, you can call different plays, but at the end of the day, can your quarterback comprehend? Can he read the defense? Can he read what everyone is doing? The defense, that all changes everything. So as far as that question is concerned, I'm playing to my strengths. I don't give a damn what they're doing. If I have a Grady Jarrett, I'm going to put Grady Jarrett in a position where he can rest the passer. So what I'm going to do is have balanced defensive linemen around him who can stop the run and occasionally rest the passer. Linebackers who are fast, who can do multiple things like Dion and Foye-Oluokun. A secondary that is, I don't really care if they're playmakers or not. I just need those guys to be smart. So if I
they
have
to be play stoppers,
that you know what I'm saying, they have to just be play stoppers at the end of the day. So I think it just depends on the personnel, because what you don't want to do is create a team like we've seen before with the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys just trying to relive the 90s. Everything is just predicated off the 90s. If you go in there and say, I want to be this team, and you're not worried about, okay, they have this guy, they have a Fletcher Cox, you know what I'm saying? Like, teams have different. So it really depends on, the personnel and how. But I always feel as though it's like make them react to what you're doing rather than focusing on what you can do. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't like having to react to what everyone else is doing. Play your game. If you play your game, it'll take care of itself.
Yeah. I mean, in the simplest form of competition, if you focus too much on your opponent, you've already lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes with just simple job careers. If you're too focused on who the other person is doing instead of just improving yourself, I'm sorry, but you've already lost that mental battle. So, and I think that we're still kind of seeing both of the things happen at the same time, because I do think the opponent matters. Like, if it's like an equal opponent, then yeah, we play to our strengths. But if it's a team where the other opponent has just a better roster, I think it's still kind of predicated to stop them. And then once we have that confidence, then we switch back to doing what we do best.
Yeah.
So I think we've had that confidence like last year in Kansas City, where we stopped them. We held Mahomes to 10 points for the longest time, and no one's ever really done that in his career.
Yeah.
That didn't happen until the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think we gave the Bucs a blueprint on how to beat the Chiefs that year, honestly.
Yeah.
We did the same thing to the Bucs into the first half, and the second half we were up 20-0. They just came back last year.
Yeah, I mean, but Yeah, the mentality of the team has to really be predicated about what we do best, and that's what gives us our confidence first.
Mm-hmm.
So until we start worrying about, oh, hey, like we got to sharpen ourselves up against the top opponent, like the contenders of the Super Bowl, like who, or at least who everyone thinks is going to be in contention for the Super Bowl, then we got to make sure that we stop them and make them look not as good against us.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point, we'll see where we are in the game, and then we go back to what works for us. If they can't stop it, then awesome. But if they can, then we just stop them.
Mm-hmm. Play off the strength of your what you have, your team. Always play up to this. And see, that's one of the main reasons why Dan Quinn, failed. Is that those guys only focus on their scheme rather than playing up to your players' ability. So now you're seeing guys like Zacchaeus. He's playing well. Of course, he was, I believe he was an undrafted free agent, if I'm not mistaken. If he wasn't that, he was drafted low. But at the end of the day, you see guys like Cordero Patterson. You're using him to his strengths. He's a receiver. He's a running back. He's everything. So when you play up to your player strengths rather than focus on what other teams are doing, you're always gonna come out, well. You give yourself a better chance. So that's why I would say look at the guys, have an idea of what you want, whether you want to be a 4-3, 3-4. Just play up to those guys' strengths and don't focus on what they can do. And that's, like I said, that's the secret to success, and that's what the Falcons got away from. At the end of the day, the NFL game is all about physicality and whether you can be mentally stronger than your opponent. And the Falcons, quite frankly, I'm just going to be real, a straight punk pussy of a GM who only want to play prissy football. I want to throw the ball. I don't want to be tough. I just want to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to win games. These guys out here 6'4", 350 pounds who are looking to knock you out. They want to knock you out. They're not trying to give you a hug, okay?
They are getting paid to knock you out.
Yeah,
they get paid to knock you out. So don't try to throw the ball past them, because guess what? These guys are going to get to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to hurt. So at the end of the day, tough football, run the ball down their throat, hit the quarterback, hit him again, and hit him some more. That's the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Millie Mills, it's kind of a late appearance for you, man. How's it going? Malik Holmes says, what's ironic is the finesse offense was tougher than the defense. Yeah, Matt Ryan to thank for that.
Mm-hmm. I think we were talking about do we regret, like this was like the other when he made the mistake, do we regret bringing in Arthur Smith? And I mean, I just think he's the perfect coach to bring into this offense for what we have now specifically as well, and what we could build on. Like, perfect.
Yeah, again, if we take a step back from our position and just take a look at what's happening around the league, dude, there are Eagles fans that want Doug Peterson back.
Right.
Like when you get so bad to the point where you don't trust your own team and you still think that 4-11-1 team is better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, but you've lost hope.
Yeah.
And that came after a win. Like,
mm-hmm.
How?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So that was my question to you, Daivon. What was your second question that you wanted to get off?
Yeah. Maybe this would be a better tell, and you can let me know. So I've been wondering, is this offensive line getting better, or is Matt Ryan just getting more comfortable in Arthur Smith's scheme?
So for me, both are true, right? Mm-hmm. Let's get that first. But when it comes to, you're good, Milliners. But when it comes to like who gets the credit for it, I think it's 25% Matt. I think it's 25% like Dave Ragone and Dwayne Ledford, our offensive line coach. I think it's 25% Arthur Smith, and I think it's also 25% just themselves. because of the accountability. It's like, hey, you need to step up to the plate and make sure that these guys don't get touched behind you.
Yeah.
All right. So they're also being put in a better scheme so that they can move around a little bit more. You're seeing them in zone. You're seeing them in play action. You're seeing them with that athletic ability to push the pile. All right. On top of being moved, on top of having that agility to move sideline to sideline like a linebacker. All right. I know that they don't have like the best speed. I don't know how they don't have like the best names on the team outside of Jake Matthews and Chris Lindstrom, but the other three out of the five, you can pick. I mean, heck, pick a person off the street, and they're not going to name anyone else on the Falcons other than Matt Ryan and maybe Julio Jones, and they don't even know that Julio's off the team. So, but you can pick off a person like an NFL fan off the street, and they're not going to really be able to tell you who the heck our offensive line is, and yet who's given up less sacks, who's been given up like less opportunities, less pressures, and we've thrown a lot, we've ran a lot, we got a lot of offensive plays, all right, like to our name, which that's only better for the offensive line because that's more cohesion. All right, like you have to take your lumps and you have to make sure that you are playing together, and it's best when you have those longer drives, when you have those abilities to really make your mental mistakes like lost behind you. Like you have to have that short memory. All right, I'm still seeing some false starts from Jake Matthews, but I know that he can clear that up, so I can give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not seeing a whole lot of holding calls except maybe from like Matt Hennessy, but even then, I know that he's a smart player. I know that he's disciplined, and I know that I can still give him the benefit of the doubt because other than that one moment, I really haven't had to say his name, and that's an amazing thing to do. All right?
We're not used to that.
The offensive line should be like the long snappers. All right? Unless they look cool or they're messing up, which really only one of the two can happen, I don't want to hear anything from them. All right? And I know that they want some love every now and then, but they get that when they score the touchdown. Who do you think spikes the ball? It's always been our offensive line. Who do you think is still getting who's still getting the bag at the end of the week? That's still the offensive line. Like they know what role they stepped up for, and they know their mentality that they have to have. It's like, hey, I'm getting paid to run these people over and make them look like pancakes. And we're seeing that. All right, that's the toughness that Arthur Smith, Dwayne Ledford, Dave Ragone, and themselves have brought to this Atlanta offense.
I have a question real quick. It actually comes from a guy who just sent a message on our Instagram. I don't even know why I'm answering this question, but thank you for the question. Just oh my goodness. As a quarterback, you are the leader, and you don't go a whole half without scoring. He basically said Matt Ryan is the leader, and you don't go half. So basically, the entire summation of so watching you live come, but Matt Ryan don't take that sack in the Super Bowl. We kick a field goal and win or no. And as a quarterback, you are the leader. You don't go a whole half without scoring. See, this is what we're talking about. This is not tennis, okay? And even in tennis, you still have a coach. So it's not really, you're not an individual. You still have to have a plan. And you have to depend on other people. You have to depend on your offensive line to block. You have to depend on your running back being able to pick up a block and run the ball to hold.
You have to depend on your defense to exist.
You know what I'm saying? So we can sit up here and say we have to, depend on the offensive coordinator to actually call the right fucking play. Okay, let's just make that Noah just
Which
said
again,
it.
He's already admitted.
He's
already
already
said
it.
it.
He's
It's like, oh
already
yeah, that was my bad. And then guess what? Like not a couple years later, he was in the same position and still made the same mistake.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I understand what you're saying. We're talking about quarterbacks being the highest paid position player in football, and he has most of the responsibility. I wouldn't say responsibility because even that's a false. Even that's a false narrative that a lot of people, particularly the media and these analysts, saying, okay, it's all up to the quarterback to win. Tom Brady did all this. Like this is why I despise the media, because they just put Tom Brady and all these Aaron Rodgers guys on a pedestal. It's like even when Aaron Rodgers has admitted he needs more weapons. This is the reason why he's upset in Green Bay, because he wanted more weapons on offense and defense. So why
he wanted that ego to say, he wanted to have the say of like, oh hey, like I want to be able to do this and do this instead of this, and to say this and have it matter. All right, like that's what he said.
Mm-hmm. And
Matt Ryan's never asked that.
You have, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. So you have to depend on others. That's just saying that a team didn't score in the whole half is not just solely. You got to look deeper. Like if you don't want to look deeper, then you can drive yourself crazy looking back at Super Bowl 51. Okay, I'm not going to do that. But at the end of the day, the Falcons still had one shot to get one tackle. Deion Jones and those guys on the defense, they did not make the tackle. Okay, why is that not highlighted? They did not make the tackle.
The other thing that was brought up earlier a couple of months ago, Robert Alford said it himself. They were celebrating, that whole defense and whatnot. They were celebrating during the halftime show, which was a really long halftime show, by the way. Like that's also something that doesn't really get brought up, because like they almost spent like an hour of real time off the field, and then had to come back after they've already like spilled all the champagne and did all and whatnot. No wonder they were out of breath.
No wonder.
No wonder why they look so gassed. All right. First of all, you had them play like 96 snaps in the game after overtime, which was already too much for any team. So I can fault them, but hey, you made the first stop. You made the first couple of stops in the first half. That had to continue.
Yeah.
You know the capabilities of what the other team was doing. That like they're there for a reason too. All right, it's not like we lost to a bad team.
No.
All right, like sure, if we blew a 28-3 lead against like the bad version of the Lions, yeah, I can expect all the embarrassment in the world, and we deserve it. But we lost to the 2016 Patriots, which other people were going back to and be like, oh, I think that was one of the most complete teams of the decade. Huh. You would think that Matt Ryan wouldn't be up to par with that and wouldn't go up toe-to-toe against one of the best defensive or one of the best teams overall in the decade, but he did. All right, and the fact that the defense over there was celebrating at the time where they knew that the game wasn't over yet, the fact that Dan Quinn didn't have any responsibility in that locker room at that time when they really needed that leadership to come from the top down instead of the bottom up, you can't blame that on Matt Ryan for celebrating too early. Just like no one's going to blame guys like Chris Chandler or whatever in the 98 Super Bowl for what happened with Eugene Robinson before that one. All right? There were people that were just messing up at the worst possible times. And do they get the blame for it? Not really. But it's the person that actually showed up to the game and did the best they could. Huh. You would think that the roles would be reversed and that we would actually be able to blame the right people this time. And after all this many times and after all these mistakes. But no, it seems to be our fan base. And it seems to be the narrative that they've really instilled in us for the past couple of years that, oh, well, now we're just waiting for the team to blow a lead.
Yeah.
But then other teams do it and they don't get any recognition for it.
Nope.
So they're focusing on the narrative against us, and that's what we're really fighting for. That's what we're really fighting against, all right? That's a lot of hostility. That's a lot of stubborn thoughts and opinions that we really can't change. And heck, if they're not smart enough to change, maybe I don't want them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Ever considered that? Why do I have to convince the stubborn people to come to our side?
That is true. Like, let them
How many
think if they
times
wanna
are we going to
talk.
keep trying to lead the horse to water and they don't drink?
Can't.
I could care less. I could care less at this moment.
All right, and the fact that that's happening to an entire city,
Yeah.
it really makes you think. Can anyone else exceed these expectations that they have so high up?
No QB could come do what Matt Ryan done. Man.
And even outside of Atlanta, too. Like,
Rookie QB,
there's been better positions for quarterbacks to come up with and succeed. And guess what happened to them? They fail. Where's their constant memes?
Yeah.
Every single week of every single day of every single month of every single year. But something's got to give there.
Yeah.
All right. And that starts with all the people that are really tuning into these other channels or whatnot, right? They have money that they need to get. They have a narrative that they need to fill. And they need to talk about what everyone else has been wanting to listen to. But those aren't the people that I don't necessarily want to please. I want to please football fans.
Yeah.
I don't want to please every single person because I can't. All right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an unrealistic goal. But if I can just have the other people at least respect, I'm not saying you have to love them. You just have to respect them. And I can't even get that.
I think ultimately it's going to be a situation where they have to see for themselves when Matt Ryan retires. I mean, you'll see the QB come in. They're going to be in agony, realizing that they can't have Matt Ryan back, honestly.
But that's the truth.
All right. And what happens if we don't draft another quarterback because we believe Josh Rosen's the guy? What's the narrative then? He did good for you guys. He did good in a preseason game against the loaded defense that was the Cleveland Browns. All right? That roster is loaded from top to bottom, and we're starting to see that.
Yeah.
All right? That's why they've been stuck into the close games and the gritty games. And I know that they didn't really have their defense show up against the Chargers, but could anyone really stop that team? I don't really blame them. All right? And Josh Rosen did that in 3 days. All right? That's enough to make a potato salad in SpongeBob's universe. All right? So we got to give these guys some credit. I don't care that they don't fit the mold that you guys want. If they give me the win columns on a consistent basis, that's all I care for. I don't care what they look like. I don't care who they root for or who they stood for. All right? I'm an outsider here. All right? Daivon is an outsider as well. He started off as an outsider because he was born in New York. I was born in California. I'm staying here, but he moved over there to Georgia. But the fact remains is I don't care. All right? If you guys want to say, like, hey, man, just win. I don't care about your mental health awareness. I don't care the fact that you're trying to spread good in the world. I don't care about Hayden Hurst's almost suicide story. I just want to see you guys win. I don't think I want to please you anymore then.
Yeah.
I don't think you really deserve to be pleased either. If that's how you want to keep feeling. You can't be pleased. All right?
Nope.
And how many other fan bases about other things have we seen? All right? Sometimes it's not just us, but it's just other people. Like, good God.
Some fan base, man.
I said this before. Like, some people can't drive. Some people can't cook. Some people can't do their own dishes. Some people are so entitled for the fact that they can't raise their own children.
Mm-hmm.
Falcons fans.
It's a ridiculous world that they live in, and yet we're trying to appease to the people that really can't be pleased. All right?
Mm-hmm.
There ain't no point in trying to beat this dead horse. It's going to stay dead.
Yeah.
So let's encourage each other while we're still here. Let's encourage each other while we still have the hope. We may be the 6%ers, but dang it, I want to be the 100%.
Anytime
If
I'm
that
in the
means we
comment
gotta,
section, I try
if that means that we gotta chop off a couple of people, that's fine. They were with us anyways.
Yeah, let them think.
They don't know our struggle. They don't know our history. They don't know what we've been through as a team. They weren't here before 28-3 or during 28-3, and they're trying to be after that, and then trying to come up here and then try to steal all their success and glory. I don't want that.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, people are going to think what they want. So this is the reason why we continuously do what we do, despite whether it's negative comments, down like this, dislikes, whatever it is. People are going to think what they think. But I always have this saying: it's simple. Just wait and see. You either going a lot of times you will end up looking like a damn fool because you thought that Justin Fields was going to be this hero and he was going to come in, he was going to save the day in Chicago. And look, he's hurt, he's inconsistent. Like, this is what happens to quarterbacks. There's so much pressure on quarterbacks these days. It's impossible for them to live up to the hype that these people in general just put on. So, hey man, I'm about to shut it down. You guys continue to do a great job.
Thank you.
But like I said before, this is the Atlanta Falcons Nation. What we do, we're here, Noah, everyone, like, these guys took a chance, and this could be you. I took a chance just like everybody else 3 years ago. Here we are. We got two, almost 3, 4, 5 successful channels just taking a chance. So take a damn chance and believe in the Falcons for once. It doesn't cost you anything. Actually, go to the damn game and cheer for these guys, okay? Go to the game, cheer, clap. That's all you're asking for. You don't have to scream. You don't have to yell. You don't have to do any of that. Just clap for them on third down. Clap for them. Do something.
Make some noise.
Let the other team, cheer you out of your own stadium. That's embarrassing.
That week one was embarrassing, but I stayed there the whole game, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it all comes down to. It. So, man, I appreciate you guys, man. Y'all continue to do what y'all doing, man. I'm about to lay it down. You hope? No, I'm not about to say that. All right, I'll let you guys, man.
Yeah, man, take care. All right, so the last questions that we were going to get to, right? Because I think I asked mine. You asked your second one.
Last two.
Okay, so I'll ask my third one.
Okay.
And this is what I was talking about talking about the Raiders situation and whatnot. Because at the beginning of it, at the very beginning of it, right, there was a lot of people that were like, "Oh, well, he just made this comment about this person's facial appearance, right?"
Yeah.
Well, NFL's too soft. They're too sensitive. They can't take a joke. All right, they've never been in like the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 kind of lobbies, right? I'm like, first of all, that's a profession, and what you guys were doing is gaming. Those do not compare at all in the slightest.
Yep.
So my question to you, when it comes to like the disciplinary structure, when it comes to the play of the game, and any other assets that you can think of, is the NFL really too soft?
Man, see that question is honestly really hard to answer. Of course, like you said, depending who you're trying to please. I think they're doing the best job that they can with certain topics that are, bigger than football. Like you said, it's some things that you have to put a stop to, or it's going to evolve, or sometimes you have to pull out one bad weed, or other than that. As far as that situation, I really don't know all the details, to be honest with you, but it seemed like everybody pulled the plug on him. Everything, like he's taken out of the ring of honor ceremony. He's taking out of
Yeah.
Madden. Like it's like going to an extreme level with that. I'm like, I do think as an organization, sometimes you got to try to not do too much, to try to please everybody, because you really can't. But, as far as on the field, I think that, they're doing the best to protect the players, but, at the end of the day, it's an entertainment business,
Right. I mean, because my side of it was,
Mhm.
I get that nothing in this world is going to be perfect, right? So if you want to implement the justice system in place for something as big as the NFL, it's not going to be perfect every single time. And I understand that, right?
Yeah.
I know that there's been a couple of other things that were really like shoved under the rug, like everything that happened to Antonio Brown,
Yeah.
like things that were happening with Tyreek Hill pre-draft. Like Aldon Smith and all these other stories, and Josh Gordon and Johnny Manziel, and there's Randy Gregory, and there's been a lot of players that still had the opportunity in order to be on the field for a team, even though they had a history, and they didn't really seem to do enough in order to change that.
Yeah.
So, from a justice system, there has to be something in place to have the threat of getting into some sort of like into some bad consequences, right? Like that has to be in place no matter what you do.
Mhm.
So if you're out in recreational stuff, like, yeah, I understand that there's like a freedom of speech and there's a freedom of like movement and whatnot, but
Yeah.
that things like that get restricted when you have a job, when you have a title to your name, and you have to hold up and live up to those expectations. So first of all, like if you were in that position, why the heck would you do that on something that can be traced?
Exactly. Like, what are you doing, man? You're making millions.
There are detectives, there are investigators, there are archaeologists and historians, and basically anyone that you can find and dig up on Reddit that are going to dig up your bad history. They're going to try to
Bro,
figure out
you
what the
cannot get
heck
away with it.
did you do, and did you deserve the position that you're given right now?
Yeah.
And again, I get that doesn't apply to every single person in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could be likened to one of the reasons as to why everyone hated Goodell since he became the commissioner in 2007. Because in between that time, there's been a lot of things that were swept under the rug.
Yep.
Like Javon Belcher's suicide.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Linebacker for the Chiefs. Killed his girlfriend, went up to the coaches, then drove away, killed himself.
Yep.
I don't know what this is going to do to a stream now that we said those words, but we're 2 hours in. I don't care. When it talks about the disciplinary issues, you have to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
And if that's not up to par, then yeah, you need to have these things put into place in order so that you can get the deserved punishment. Now, sometimes the punishment never really like live up to what was the situation. Like there's still a couple of girlfriend beaters and wife beaters that are in the NFL that are prospering.
Mm-hmm.
There are still, secret like addicts and have other problems with like drugs and alcohol in the past. And some people have already recovered from that. Like look at Darren Waller, Max Crosby.
Yeah.
Like that's how they kind of really became friends. There was that AA meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have had these bad histories, and they're trying to do all that they can in order to really make sure that was just that one-time thing, right? And sure, on certain situations where that, hey, like you've done everything that you can, like Michael Vick's situation. Once you've done everything that you can in order to make sure that is wiped from your name, which he's done the best that he can, and it's still not wiped from his name.
Yeah, it'll never be enough.
Like at the end of the day, yeah, he was the fast black quarterback that everyone wanted to have and root for in Atlanta. And now the only thing that we know him by is that he was a dog fighter, or that he killed dogs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what pops into people's heads first. It didn't matter that it was so many years ago.
Yeah. That's what
Do you
I
think
do
that
think. Like the NFL has to sometimes stop being too political. You know what I mean? Like I agree. Everybody's human beings. You know, you have a certain amount of what you can do, what people can get away with. But at some point, you have to let what they did on the football field stay there. You know, and leave their personal lives there. You know, I feel like they try to drag it into the NFL, and it. I feel like sometimes you gotta leave personal things that personal. You know.
Yeah, and I think that the NFL should really keep in check to what it does best, and that's just play football.
Yeah.
If you're expounding onto other things that doesn't really make sense, that you don't have like the necessary, or that you have resources, but you're not putting the full effect into them.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you're going to put end racism on the end zone of the 49ers thing, but did you really end racism with Colin Kaepernick's situation? Did you really end racism with the Rooney Rule?
Yeah.
Did you really end racism with the fact that there's no black owners in the NFL?
Yeah.
Is that really gone? No, you guys haven't really done that yourself. So why go out of your own element? That's something that you didn't really do yourself. Why are you trying to expand and try to do things that didn't really appeal to you? People wanted to watch you because they wanted to get away from that stuff. That was the outing on every Sunday.
Yeah.
And now that was being forced into our heads so many times. It's like, you don't see other companies worrying about that. Do you see ASPCA worry about homelessness? No, that's out of their element. That's not what they're good at.
Yep.
All right. Do you see guys like Domino's or something that's like trying to prevent bullying? No, that's not what they're good at. Mm-hmm. So why go out of your own spot to something that you aren't even the best at in your own right? So, yeah, the NFL to a point has gotten softer. The people in control have been negligent at best in certain matters. Dan Snyder is still the owner of the Washington.
That's crazy.
Why is that not dealt with?
But John Gruden is the main thing, everybody's paying attention to.
Why is Urban Meyer still with a job?
Yeah. They just wiped that under the rug.
Look, if you want a justice system, that's fine, but hold everyone to it equally.
Yeah. See, and
that's
then,
all
like
I ask.
That there lies the problem. If you do that, you have to do it to everybody, and then it could be a huge domino effect at that point. And
so then the other side of this too was, like I said, like the play style. Mm-hmm. Like, has the NFL on the field, has that gotten softer too?
Like, my opinion about that. Okay, so do you remember? Was it Aldon Smith? He was on the Raiders. He lifted up the dude and threw him on the ground. It's one of those DeAndre Hopkins did it to the Saints player. And he got a flag. It's like when you lift him up and you turn him, you throw him on the ground. It's kind of
like a German suplex.
Yeah. Personally, to me, I'm like, if you're on the football field and that's how he decides to tackle, yes, I understand the safety reasons and they try to do that. But at some point, you have to let football be football. what we were talking about earlier in the show, landing on the quarterback, that's a safety. Hitting the quarterback in the head, that's a safety. CTE is already a problem. I think that the NFL, and there lies the problem again. They're trying to be safe, but they're not all the way being safe. Or they'll do it and they'll overdo it. Like this taunting rule, that is the softest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, they're grown men. They're like, you're not letting them taunt each other. If you can't handle that, you shouldn't be in the NFL. If a guy's scoring 50 points on you and celebrating before he scores, high-fiving each other while they're running to the end zone, stop them. I do think that rule is just ridiculous. Like, you have to take that out.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen it forced too much, which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing.
But I mean, the fact that it's there, it's
like, why?
And then it's gonna be there, and then you're not even enforcing it correctly.
Exactly. Like,
it's just like the review with the defensive pass interference that we had last year.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in there, and then you you had all of us look at the same play. And then because of the arrogance of the referees,
that was hilarious.
They're like, yeah, no, we were right.
Like,
and we're going to continue to be right because that's our position.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
I can give you the benefit of the doubt if you're good on it like 80% of the time, but you're not even good at it like 40% of the time. So it's like, I can't give you that benefit of the doubt there.
That's the thing. When you see
with the play style, when it comes to things like roughing the passer and the defensive pass interference, I get that, but they've added some tweaks here and there. But that defensive pass interference rule, like the Mel Blount rule, that's been initiated since 1978.
Mm.
You know, and that was, like I said, that was tweaked from then on. The roughing the passer rule has been implemented ever since the 1930s, and even then, that was only because they weren't really confident that they know that they can throw the ball. Like, that's what colleges were doing, but that's not what the NFL was known for at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the rule was there. The rule was there to protect protect the person that was in charge of throwing the ball. All right,
mm-hmm.
I understand that rule. All right, because that's what people are paid money to see. They want to see the starter. They don't want to see the backup. All right, but that being said, they can still get hurt.
Yeah, any play.
You know, when they become a runner, when the mobile quarterbacks, when they become a runner, first off, they're not in the running back room taught to hold on to the ball and whatnot. All right, that's why all these quarterbacks that are mobile, they kept fumbling.
Trey Lance, that he tried to get into the end zone, like, oh my goodness,
that was dangerous.
You don't do that. Even that Zach Wilson against AJ Terrell, like AJ Terrell could have lowered his shoulder and taken him out, but he just wrapped him up. You know, he still got hit pretty hard, but it's like you said, they don't know how to slide. They're not in the running back room taught how to run, you know, and protect yourself.
Like with the defenseless receiver again, too. Like that was implemented recently.
Yeah,
like
that's iffy at that. Like that's iffy sometimes.
Yeah, because then there was.
It's like what is a defensive, like it's so like iffy on the rule, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Virginia Tech is my team, and it was against Notre Dame, and it's like you can't even tell what a defensive receiver is anymore. Like his head was turned, made a football move, and he lowered his shoulder, and they said that's still, you know. I was like, how is it supposed to tackle? Push him? Like there's just some things you can't do.
But then that hit against Devontae Adams in the San Francisco game wasn't. So how is that the case?
Yeah.
You know, like there's.
Bro, that one
was. That was disgusting. You know.
Yeah.
Millie Mills was talking about pancaking on the offensive line. I mean, yeah, like, well. You still kind of see pancakes there on there, but it's not like you hold the shoulder pads and you really drag them to the ground like that, because that's a holding call. All right, that's holding calls have been there for a long time. All right, so I don't want to see all these people from all these different eras and be like, oh man, back in this time, like they were so much tougher then. I'm like, well, they still had that rule. So
yeah.
Depressed Atlanta sports. Hey, don't be depressed, because the Hawks are good. The Braves are good.
Braves, like Atlanta United, can still make a playoff run. So
I think the Falcons can really light off with this momentum from the rest of the city.
Yep.
It's not like there's not a fan base that's here. Like, hey, everyone in Atlanta is doing good right now.
Yeah.
And the team that really cares about, that they should care about the most, there's hope there too. All right?
Yeah.
The Braves didn't have that hot of a start. Hawks didn't have that hot of a start. Then look what happened.
The Hawks have none. Like, everybody thought they were one of the worst teams in the NBA. I think the Falcons have the same expectation, honestly, for me at least.
Yeah, like you need to have that hot start, get the rally from the crowd, and then once that momentum's with us in the stadium, we can't be beat.
Bro,
like I said, we can't. Like, we're not losing to ourselves anymore.
No. Like, the vibe in Atlanta is crazy. You ever been to Atlanta United game? Like, you feel it.
So, yeah. But anyway, so you said, I don't know why people hate Matt, a great player and a better person. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of things that the NFL really hasn't done that, yeah, that still, you didn't really sweep it under the rug then.
Yep.
You know, like if we're still able to talk about it, then that means it still exists in the world, which means that it happened at some point. We're not just making this stuff up. You know, so I know that you have to have like a short memory about this and just move on to the next problem, but this next problem is something that you still couldn't solve, and that's a continuation of what was happening with the other problems. Like this was such a snowball effect to something that they really saw before. They saw it. They looked at it. All right? Bruce Allen knew about it. Adam Schefter knew about it. Come on.
Wow.
There's nothing more to say there at that point.
No.
So, anyways, that was our last question. That was the last question for me. What was your last question? That was my last question for you. What was your last question for me?
What do you think the Falcons need to focus on this bye week in order to be successful for the rest of the season?
All right. So I put down 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's let me find it here. Number 1, I still want to perfect the situation of football and getting the momentum and keeping it.
Important.
Because we still have that 1 or 2 plays that, oh my God, now we're going to lose the game.
Yeah.
Millie Mills, I'm sorry, it ain't that type of stream, but I'm going to help you out a little bit. Emmanuel Sanders. All right, go. When it comes to the second part of that for me was the special teams, you know, and a lot of other people brought that up as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, how come it's like specifically the second half kickoffs that we struggle
It really is. It's a huge momentum.
All the other ones, they keep going out of bounds for touchbacks. What the heck happened to that one? It's the same kicker.
It really is. It's just
he had a whole half.
Exact same thing the next week.
And then our final thing is just simply recovering and staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take this time, rest our bodies, not make too many mistakes because injuries can still happen in practice.
Yeah.
You know, so if we just make sure that we keep our bodies right, you know, I think this is kind of like this is like the rookie's first bye week. You know, this is that and like the preseason kind of like in betweener week where we didn't have a football game there.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like their second bye week, I guess. Anyways, the point is they have to learn how to maintain what they've been doing in the week by week basis, even though they don't have a game.
Yep.
All right. I want them to be double prepared for Miami. I know they don't have to be because it's Miami right now and they look like the 2019 form, but
and they're coming back from London too.
Yeah, like we need the rest. We need to get our heads right, our internal clocks reset. You know, and we just need to keep up what we're doing, stay healthy, get ourselves healthier, and then get all our pieces back so that we can start winning. All right, we can't rely on Isaiah Oliver. We can't rely on certain other players that were already out, that were battling injuries. You know, there's a couple other things here and there that were a little bit finicky for some players. And yeah, Millie Mills said it. Like we can beat them with or without Tua because Tua doesn't really sway the scale in my opinion, not right now at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's all I had to say about that one. What was your points?
From what I've seen from this team this week, it's kind of what we talked about earlier in the show. I feel like this team, just by Arthur Smith learning from his mistake last week and doing something different and showing that he's gonna throw the ball down the field to show that we're not being conservative anymore. That builds confidence, and that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And you see Kyle Pitts getting the ball, and without Calvin Ridley or Russell Gage, you see that the running game's getting better. You see that the offensive line's getting better. You see that the defense can stop teams and situations. And I think that the young guys are stepping up, and I just think it's really important. Confidence is key to go into the next part of the next later part of the season, you know, especially with these division games coming up. You know, you really want to be confident heading there. So I think those points you said and confidence is just very important to do.
Right. I mean, like I said, once we get on a streak, once we get in a rhythm, our only opponent at that point is ourselves.
Yep.
Because we've seen that we can match up well against a team that still people didn't think that we could win.
Yeah.
You know?
Bro, 4 people. I was like, when I was watching the pregame show, I was like, really? And it just sounded like y'all just hating on the Falcons at that point. The Jets. They didn't even give a reason why the Jets won. They just said, Falcons are Falcons. No, I'll pick the Jets. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Man.
No one gives a reason as to why, like, they do, like, why they feel about certain ways. You ever notice that? The hateful comments are often the shortest.
Yep. And I posted that. I don't know. I just said, if you have criticism of the team, please do constructive criticism, and then I will respond to that. You know, if you say Matt Ryan's bad because blah blah blah, you know what I mean? We could talk about that, but you can't talk about this team sucks. Matt Ryan's bad. You know, you could point out reasons, but
and then talk about the different ways and how to say it differently about, you know, this team sucks because this team's bad.
Yeah, like what?
What was that sentence?
You say, like, they can't ever give, you know, explanations about it. You know.
It's like, oh yeah, Matt Ryan chokes because he's a choker. That's not a sentence. That's not a reason.
Like, okay.
Like, yeah, there ain't no point in trying to sway your opinion.
Yeah. None.
All right, guys. Well, I think that was about enough for both of us. We kind of carried this thing a bit longer than we thought, but we're still kind of in and off of the times that we were normally doing it. So, yeah, this is the new format. How do you guys like it? Because we're going to try to keep this up. We're going to still kind of think about, brainstorm more questions. And, hey, if you guys have questions you want to give us, if you want to think about it, because, like the preview or whatever, like before on YouTube for us, like you can go in the comment section even when like the stream isn't on yet. You can go in there earlier. If you want to leave a comment before we hop on, that could be helpful as well. And then that can give us a little bit more time to talk about it too. So just know that this is the format for now. Like I said, I ain't the fantasy guy twisted. I can talk about other stuff. But yeah, this has been me. You can really only find me here. Don't try to find me anywhere else because I'm not going to accept you. All right? Because it's not about who I am. It's about what I say. And I'm going to stand by that. All right? That's why I'm not branching off into other channels and trying to become my own person. It's not about me. All right? I don't consider myself any better than any one of y'all fans. All right? I just decided to become more vocal because I wanted to connect with the community that I couldn't elsewhere or otherwise. So that's why I'm here. All right? And Daivon is over here because he kind of feels the same way. All right? So you can find him on his channel. Look up Speak Up Falcons. I want to see that subscriber count go up for him, man. If you want to hear more from him, you got to go to his channel. Like I said, you can only find me here. So that's it for us, guys. Appreciate y'all checking out for this late. Jeez. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Yeah, man. AFN strong. All right? That's what we do. That's what we're here for. We do this for the benefit of y'all so that you don't have to listen to all these people that don't know what they're talking about and just want to get clickbait.
Yep.
We over here with passion.
Yep.
So that being said, we're going to tune out. Thank y'all so much. Have a great night, great morning, great day, great whatever.
Great week, y'all.